So you got you some cast iron, you did, and you don't know what to do with it or how to take care of it. Well, in this video, I got you covered from A to Z and everywhere in between. How to cook in it, how to clean it, how to re-season it. You're going to enjoy them all. I needed this help. You're going to need it too. Stick around. Hey, thank y'all for stopping by. My name is Kent Rollins, and we welcome you to another edition of Cowboy Cooking. And what do I use in my cowboy cooking more than anything else? That is cast iron. Good, all-American, made in the USA cast iron. We have put you together a quick start guide on everything you need to know about this cast iron, from cooking to cleaning to re-seasoning to everyday use and maintenance. We have got you covered. Now, we make a lot of references to a lot of different videos and tips and stuff, but it'll all be listed below down here in this little description. So let's get in the house and see what we can do. Go over to that heat source you got, and if it is gas or electric, still the same method is going to apply. Let's turn this on to about a medium heat, place that skillet on there, and we're going to let it get hot. How do you know it's hot? Touch it with your finger just barely. Then you can turn that down to regulate that temperature. It's saving you money in the long run because good cast iron holds heat and distributes evenly. You don't have to just crank it up there on high and leave it. You're going to end up burning something up. You take whatever you're frying in there, put it in a hot surface, it's less apt to stick than it would if you just chunk it in there right when you start and let it go. Before you put your food in there to fry it, whatever you're doing to it in that skillet, make sure your skillet is hot. Can I do this on a glass cooktop that is electric? Yeah, you can. You can't slam it around there and everything else. Now, a lot of the old stuff is going to have a heat ring, and that heat ring is going to give you a little buffer on some of these glass top stuff, and it won't work on an induction oven because it is not sitting directly covering the eye. What kind of utensils is best to use in cast iron, whether it be a Dutch oven or a skillet? Now, a lot of people tell me, I seen you using metal. Well, folks, I do be using me a metal spatula on occasion. Now, I'll flip an egg with it, turn a pancake over, dip something out with it, but you won't see me scraping a skillet or a Dutch oven for cleaning purposes on there, because when it's metal against metal, you're going to lose some of your seasoning by scraping on it. They make these here rubber spatulas, and I'm sure Shan might even have you a link on Amazon where you can find them. Now, my most preferred thing probably that I like to cook with as a utensil when I'm cooking is cast iron is just a wooden spatula of some kind. It can be one of these, a homemade, but that way, folks, if you're digging in there to turn something over or you're stirring, you're not disrupting any of your seasoning by using wood. What can I cook in this cast iron and what can I not cook in there? The only thing that I don't do in cast iron skillet or a Dutch oven is boil water-based substances. Now, I'm talking purely water-based, like boiling beans or something like that. When it gets to a high temperature and it just continually boils, it is loosening your seasoning. And a lot of times you'll get a black film that's on top of them beans or the water. It's because you boiled in that cast iron that was seasoning and it's turning some of it loose. Can you cook acidic foods in there? Cobblers, barbecue-based, tomato-based? Yes, you can. Is it hard on cast iron? Yes, it is to some extent. But if it's seasoned well when you start and you clean it well and you re-season, you ain't gonna hurt a thing. When you're heating it or you're cooling it, do it gradual. And I'm not gonna set it over in a sink of cold water when I get through with it, just by the same purpose too. If I'm cooking something really hot in a Dutch oven, I'm not gonna set it in a snowbank. You gotta be careful not to shock cast iron from one extreme to the other, hot or cold. And I get this question a lot, is about searing a piece of meat. Now, to me, there is two ways that you can do this. Put that skillet over on that burner, gradually warm it up, and then crank it to high. And when it reaches the smoke point, when you see that skillet begin to smoke, that thing is hot enough to sear. But the way I like the most of it is, I love to put it in that oven, preheat it at 450 degrees, let her set in there for about 30 minutes, drag that skillet out, put it on that burner, high heat. That thing will sear something a whole lot quicker. But when you're cooking in cast iron, it's more about the maintenance and the care of it, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. But remember, when you take care of a piece of cast iron and you cook with it, you're getting the benefits that you'll never get from any other kind of skillet. You're not getting the flavor, and you're not getting a utensil that's going to last forever and ever. warm water and a sponge is really all you're going to need. Soap, you say? Never soap. Now, sure, way back yonder when soap was made out of lye and Granny made it out there in a big pot and stirred it with a stick, that stuff would take the hair off a frog's butt and the hair off your head too. Sure, dishwashing soaps we have today are much more milder than that. Do I use soap? No, not ever. So maybe you fried something in there or something stuck in there and you got a little residue in there. What's going to happen? I'm going to take this little wooden spatula here that I made out of mesquite and I'm going to scrape that oven or skillet to where it is good and clean. Now, this being wood, I'm not going to get rid of none of my seasoning because it's not metal against metal. Get that all over to one side, take a paper towel, wipe it out really well, discard it, warm water and sponge again. Say you've cleaned this, and it's happened to me with warm water and a sponge after you get all your residue out of there, but I see a little something in there that don't look right. It's a little black speck or it's something that stuck a little harder than what that sponge and that warm water wouldn't take off. So what we're going to do? Of course, sea salt. Put some in right there on that spot. You can do it with a piece of leather, 2 or 3 paper towels folded up. Just give it a good scratching right there on that little spot. I'm not telling you to go all around it, just on that spot you see. Take it back over there, rinse it out with good warm water. You are good to go. Another method for cleaning cast iron, probably my most favorite and the one I use most of the time to clean cast iron when I have fried something in it and it may be stuck just a little or got a little leftover residue in there. Wipe all that excess grease out of there you can. Then make sure you have some hot water, whether you've had it on the stove or you're running it out of the sink. Place the skillet in there, pour the hot water over it. What happens? Steam. And steam cleans in a hurry, folks. It is probably the fastest way to clean a piece of cast iron. You got to make sure your skillet is hot and your water is hot, because we're not going to shock this like I told you, remember, from one extreme to the other. And let me give you another little tip. Get you one of them there sponges or something got a handle on it. That way it sort of keeps you away from it as you're running. But folks, it takes very little effort whatsoever. I clean it every trip I use it. Every time, every day. I never let it set. I clean it as soon as I get through with it. It just makes it easier. But also, always check that outside of that skillet and make sure, like if you cracked an egg on there, some of that run down, all you got to do, a little hot water, bristle brush, clean it right off. But if you got you some of that residue that's already built up on there, we've got a little link up there above and down below on maintenance for cleaning cast iron. Seasoning, I'm not talking salt and pepper, no. I'm talking about building up a layer of a good oil that is a non-stick surface. We just cooked something in there, we cleaned it, whether it was with hot water and a sponge or we did the steam method. Put it back over here on a burner over medium heat, take you a good rag, wipe any excess moisture out of there that you see, and then we got to let that thing heat up. Now, how do I know it's hot enough to season? Just touch the top side of the skillet wall, because I got to let it heat plumb through. We want this hot, but not smoking hot, because if you try to season cast iron and you're smoking it out of there, you're losing all your seasoning. Turn it off. So now we're going to add the oil. How much? It don't take much, folks. A lot of people want to put way too much in there and have some old sticky, gummy mess. And then what are we going to do? Take a good lint-free rag. I like to use a bandana. Wipe it around there good. Sides, bottom, everywhere. Wipe all that excess off that you can get. After a few minutes, we're going to come back and we're going to take that rag and we're going to wipe it one more time to make sure that we didn't miss any excess oil that didn't get absorbed the first trip. So I come back in here to the kitchen maybe 30, 45 minutes later and I'm fixing to put that skillet up, but I noticed that there is a little sticky residue in there. Maybe I didn't get it wiped out good. What do we got to do? Turn that burner back on, get it hot, wipe that excess out of there. Make sure you get it all. What kind of oil do I like to use? Well, I have 3 that I really love. That is grapeseed oil, olive oil, and I have started really liking me some avocado oil. Now, you can use about any basic oil that you want if it's working for you, but not Pennzoil Trop Arctic or Phillips 66 or Mobil or any of that stuff you might put in your pickup. Now, I know a lot of you always be asking me this question. Well, my mother used to use just bacon fat that she had cooked in and just wiped that down. My mother did too, and she used that skillet every day. If you ever don't use that skillet very often and you put a lid on there, you're going to get something that begins to smell rancid. You always tell us don't use a paper towel. Now, some of y'all might not have heard that yet, and y'all be thinking to yourself, why can't we use a paper towel? Well, paper towel's full of lint, And when you're wiping something down, you're transferring lint to your cast iron. I prefer a bandana, and old t-shirts work well, they do. Now I'll use them 2 or 3 days in a row. Then what do? I'll get me some hot water in the sink, and I'll take this rascal and I use Simple Green, and I'll wet her down, throw her in there, but I'll always let them soak. Then I'll take them out, wring all the water out of them good, and the only thing that I'm going to put in the washing machine is just these rags. So make sure that you store them somewhere to where they're all combined, they're all the same thing, not in there with your wife's favorite cup towel. Further, wait a minute, you in the back, y'all turn your phones off and pay attention, because what I'm fitting to tell you now is probably one of the most important things you're going to hear come out of my mouth. You're going to re-season every time you use that skillet. If I used it 3 times today, I'm going to re-season it 3 times. I like a slick, glossy, black finish, and that's how you get it, by re-seasoning every trip you use that skillet. You heard me talk about re-seasoning the inside of this skillet. Let's talk about re-seasoning the outside of that skillet. If you're cooking mainly indoors with this, you're not going to quite get a big build-up as you would if you were cooking outside over a wood fire. There's more soot, there's more smoke, and you're going to have to clean and season more often. I'll do this about maybe once a week in the house. If I'm outside, I try to do it about every trip I'm cooking with one of them. And it's just a light coat of oil, but I ain't using that good oil over here that costs more money. I'll get me a cheap vegetable oil and just wipe around the outside, even the bottom, because it's got to be hot. Remember, same principle applies from inside to outside. When you cook something that's got a lid on it, you're going to get condensation. What will that make if you don't clean it? It will eventually make rust. So make sure it is wiped off, it is heated, season the inside with the same thing you do in the bottom of that skillet, and then make sure this is good and dry on the outside. Season it with a vegetable oil, something like that. It will last you forever. Deep frying something in it, folks, it does great wonders because you've got a depth of oil in there that's at a constant temperature above 350 degrees. Cast iron loves some deep frying, it does. You might want to do this maybe once a week, twice a month. It'll help keep that seasoning in there. It's going to build it, but also it's going to firm up that foundation of seasoning that you already have on there. Hey, I got me one of them griddles. How do you take care of it? How do you clean it? How do you season it? It's cast iron, folks. It is the same method throughout. I clean it the same way, most of the time with the steam method, and I re-season it the same way. Storage. I get so many people, hey, I live in an apartment where I don't know where to put my cast iron. I can't hang it on the wall. Well, my mother stored hers in the oven for years. I like to hang mine on the wall if you've got a place that you can do that. We've got a video we did on how to store cast iron, and you can check that out, but make sure you don't stack it oven to oven or skillet to skillet. You're going to scratch some of that seasoning off. So let's make this the year throughout the world that we begin to cook in cast iron. You're going to have the benefits of your food tasting so much better when you cook out of a cast iron skillet. Also, there's a health benefit there is. Number 1, don't get hit in the head by it. Number 2, you're going to absorb iron from eating out of iron. Cast iron is not intimidating, folks. It really isn't. It's something that's going to last you a lifetime. And with the maintenance and the tips that we give you today, it will perform and you will be so proud you have it. We got a lot of additional information that will help you out, and everything that we used or we talked about in this video, Shan will have in the little description below. You won't be lost. I want to thank our veterans and all our service members for keeping this country free that we can all enjoy eating out of good cast iron. Remember now, hit them little buttons, share and like. God bless you each and every one, and see you down the cast iron trail. Now there's so many myths and everything that are, boy, it didn't take long to screw that up, did it? Like, hey, you're going to cook in this stuff, you got to throw it on that burner, and the beagle wants outside.
Quit messing up production.
It won't be but just a second you can show him scratching coming back in. Let's talk about cooking in cast iron.
Wait, you have a hair that's like, wait, it's sticking up. Yeah, wait, no, let me see. Yeah, no, that's good.
That's the face of loveliness. Big says,